The occupation of ferrying people across the water is ancient. Charon, the boatman from Greek mythology that ferried people across the river Styx to the underworld, was probably our first written embodiment. And Michigan has its share of long, narrow lakes. Sometimes you have to drive dozens of miles to get across an expanse of water that's only a few hundred feet. That's an inconvenience today, but in the late 19th century, that was a problem for people, their livelihoods, industry. And to solve that problem, a few individuals built some crude boats that they used to ferry people across for a fee. They transport everything from people to oxen to carts to horses. It saved a lot of time, effort, and hardship. And today, in a little town called Ironton, Michigan, you can take a ferry across 600 feet of water and save yourself a half hour. And when you do that, you become part of an almost 150-year history. Today, while I'm supposed to be working, I took a little detour. Why don't you join me for a ride on the Ironton Ferry? I'm Chuck, the channel's Restless Viking. Let's go for a ferry ride. In the 1870s, woodcutters and some homesteaders had settled here, along with the native population. And this was Pine Lake then. Now it's the south arm of Lake Charlevoix. And these are the Narrows. And the first industry around here was pig iron and charcoal. They'd cut the wood, they would fire it in some kilns, and they would make charcoal, and they used the charcoal to make pig iron. And they named the community, funny enough, Ironton. And in 1876, Robert Bedwin started ferrying people across the Narrows in a rowboat for 5 cents. And in the 1870s, the Pine Lake Iron Company started building a foundry. And to build that foundry, they needed horses, oxen, and wagons transported across the channel. And a man named Arden Sheldon built an 18-foot by 24-foot scow. It was hand-powered, and both the ferrymen and the passengers helped to operate it. And a few years later, Mr. Sherry, who owned the Pine Lake Iron Company, said that if a Democrat was elected, that he was going to close the foundry down. And a few years later, Grover Cleveland was elected. So he closed the plant, took what he wanted, blew it up with dynamite, and headed back to Chicago. But the ferry stayed. It was soon powered by horses, then in 1900 by a gas engine, and in 1926, the current vessel was built, the Charlevoix. It has 2 diesel hydraulic motors with screws in the front and the back, and it's guided by 2 cables that drop down 25 feet below the surface. In 1936, the ferry gained national attention when Ripley's Believe It or Not featured Captain Alexander. He was a captain of the ferry from 1900 to 1948. Sam traveled over 15,000 miles with never going further than 1,000 feet from home.
Believe it or not.
It's $4 to take a car, it's free if you walk, it's $1 for a bike. Stop by and take a ride on this almost 100-year-old ferry and share in the 150-year-old tradition. I'm Chuck, the channel's Restless Viking. We'll see you soon.